Morning came slowly, like it wasn't sure it wanted to show up. The sky over Glendora was pale and washed out, the kind of gray blue that made everything look like it belonged inside a photograph. A few clouds hovered like they'd been painted there. Lila woke with her cheek pressed against her hoodie, her body stiff from sleeping on the hard ground. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it snapped back. The park, the shelter, the night, and Rowan beside her. Rowan was still asleep, his head tilted awkwardly against the wall. His hoodie was pulled up, making him look smaller, more like a kid and less like someone trying to survive. Lila sat up carefully and listened. Morning sounds, birds, distant traffic, a dog barking somewhere. No shouting, no slamming doors, no footsteps stomping toward her room. She wrapped her arms around herself and the cold crept into her fingers. The fear was still there too, tucked deep inside her, waiting. But the daylight made it easier to breathe. Rowan blinked awake a moment later, eyes unfocused. When he saw Lila, his face tightened like he was bracing for a bad dream. Then he remembered too. Still here, he said hoarsely. Yeah, Lila replied, still here. Rowan sat up and rubbed his face. I'm starving. Lila swallowed, then nodded. Me too. They stayed quiet for a moment, and in that silence was the truth neither of them wanted to say out loud. They couldn't live on one good day. A good day didn't solve anything. It just made the rest harder to face. Rowan glanced toward the street. There's a Winchell's nearby. I saw it when we walked last night. Lila's stomach twisted with hunger. Donuts weren't important, not really, but food felt like proof the world could still be kind. They gathered their things quickly and moved through the neighborhood like they were late for school, like this was normal, like they belonged. The Winchell's Donut House had that warm, sugary smell that hit you before you even opened the door. Inside, everything was bright. Clean counters, a case full of donuts that looked like tiny works of art. Glazed, powdered, frosted, filled. A radio played softly behind the counter. Lila stood frozen for a second, caught off guard by how normal it all was. Rowan stepped forward, suddenly confident, like he'd practiced being a regular customer. He ordered 2 donuts, a couple of chocolate ones, one glazed, one with sprinkles, and hot cocoa. They paid in cash. They walked out with warm food and a paper bag, and for a moment it was easy to pretend they were just 2 kids on a Saturday morning. They went back to the park, settled under the shelter again, and ate slowly. Lila closed her eyes as she took the first bite. It tasted like childhood. It tasted like something she'd been missing longer than she could name. Rowan leaned back and exhaled. If this is what freedom tastes like, he said, then I'm never going back. Lila laughed softly. Don't say it too loud. Rowan smirked. Okay, whisper it. They shared a small smile, but the smile didn't last. The weight of the next question pressed down on them both. What now? Lila pulled her backpack closer and stared at the grass. We can't stay here forever. Rowan nodded, chewing slower now. We need a plan. Lila's fingers tightened around her cocoa cup. We need somewhere safe. Rowan looked toward the street. Or we need someone to help. The word help felt sharp, like stepping on glass barefoot. Help meant adults, and adults meant risk. Lila wanted help, she did, but she didn't know who to ask without being sent back to the place she was desperate to escape from. They sat in silence, 2 kids trying to solve problems too big for their shoulders. That's when the laughter started. It came from the park entrance. A group of older people, early 20s maybe, walked in like they owned the place. Loud voices, careless confidence, the kind of energy that didn't watch itself. They carried a cooler. They moved like the world and never told them no in a way that mattered. Rowan stiffened immediately. Lila did too. They both knew something before it even happened. They were small, they were alone, and this was the kind of attention they couldn't afford. The group claimed a picnic table not far away. Music crackled from a small radio. One of them kicked at the dirt like he was bored of the earth itself. Another laughed too hard at something that wasn't funny. Then one of them noticed the shelter, noticed them. The older guy waved, too friendly, too familiar. "Hey," he called. "You two okay over there?" Rowan didn't answer. Lila didn't either. They kept their faces neutral. The guy shrugged his shoulders and turned to join his friends, who had sprawled around a table with benches. They all looked like they were having a great time, and for a while just ignored them as they laughed and chatted. Then one of the girls, tall, blonde, with a sharp laugh, turned her head. "You guys runaways?" Lila's throat tightened. Rowan's jaw clenched. "No."
Yes.
The tall blonde girl raised her hands like he'd insulted her. "Relax, we're not cops." Rowan glanced at Lila like, "Don't talk, don't trust them." But the older guy stepped forward with a grin that was meant to be charming. "You look like you could use a break," he said, holding up a can from the cooler. "You want something to drink?" Rowan shook his head. "No." The guy's smile stayed. "Come on, don't be like that. It's just, soda." Lila's skin prickled. Something in the guy's voice made the word soda feel like it wasn't just soda. Rowan stood up, putting his body between Lila and them. "We're fine," Rowan said. The older guy's smile sharpened slightly. All right, just being friendly." But they didn't leave. One of the others looked at Lila's backpack, then at her shoes, then at her hands, like he was measuring her, sizing her up. Rowan kept his voice steady. "We said we're fine." The blonde girl scoffed. "Why are you acting like we're going to hurt you?" Rowan's face stayed blank. "Because we don't know you." The group exchanged amused looks, like Rowan was cute for trying to be brave. Then a different guy stepped forward, older than the rest, maybe 21, dark hair, nice smile, hands in his pockets. He looked like someone you might trust on the first glance. And that's what made him dangerous. "Hey," he said calmly, "look, my buddy Frankie's got a place nearby. There'll be food, music. You can chill." Lila's stomach flipped. A place? Shelter? Safety? Rowan's eyes narrowed. "Why would you invite us?" The guy shrugged like it was obvious. "Because you're kids. You shouldn't be out here." Lila hated that her heart reacted to that statement. She hated that part of her wanted to believe him. Rowan hesitated. Lila could see it. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have a safe adult. They didn't have anywhere else to go. Rowan looked at Lila, and his eyes asked the question he didn't want to say. "Should we?" Lila stared back, afraid of what Hope could make her do. Finally, she whispered, "Maybe just for food?" Rowan's shoulders sagged slightly. He turned to the group. "We're not staying long." The guy grinned like he had won something. "Great, come on." And just like that, the decision was made. They walked down the street in a loose group, Lila staying close to Rowan. She kept her backpack strapped tight, like she might be able to hold on to her life with it.
Yeah.
As they walked, the group laughed and talked loudly. They spoke like the world existed for their entertainment. One of them asked Rowan questions about school, about where he lived. Rowan answered too vaguely. Then the questions shifted, small, careful ones. "Where are your parents at? You got money? You got a place to sleep?" Lila felt her stomach drop. They weren't just being friendly. They were collecting information. Rowan's voice stayed even. We're fine. But the guy walking beside Lila smiled at her. You're quiet, he said. Lila forced a small shrug. They reached a house that looked too nice to feel real. Not huge, but well kept. Front yard neat, car in the driveway, clean windows behind dark curtains. The guy opened the door like he belonged there. Frankie, someone called out. A moment later, Frankie appeared. He was young, barely older than the others, but looked older in the way people do when they've been living without limits. He had that type of confidence that came from never having to explain himself. He smiled when he saw them. Well, look at this, Frankie said. You bringing guests now? The guy clapped Frankie on the shoulder. Found him at the park. Thought you wouldn't mind. Frankie's eyes flickered over Rowan, then Lila. There was a quick pause. So fast most people wouldn't notice, but Lila did. Because she knew what it felt like to be looked at like an object. Frankie stepped aside. Go on in. Lila's feet moved slowly. Her instincts screamed. But Rowan was already walking forward, and she couldn't let him go in alone. Inside, the house smelled like old smoke and stale sweet drinks. It wasn't exactly filthy, but it felt abandoned in a different way, like nobody cared what happened here. Lila overheard someone whispering about Frankie. Dude owns this place outright. Really? How? Parents are dead. He got it. Frankie laughed loudly in the kitchen. Someone turned the music up. The group spread out like ants, taking over the place. Frankie offered Rowan something to drink.
Yeah.
Rowan refused. Someone offered Lila something too. She shook her head. But they kept pushing, laughing, teasing, calling them boring, calling them babies, calling them scared. They acted like pressure was a game. Rowan stayed strong. But Lila had been tired for too long. Her brain was exhausted from running, from fear, from thinking. The room felt warm, like it was trying to lull her. And when someone placed a cup in her hand, when everyone laughed like it was safe, she made the mistake that scared kids make when they're desperate to feel normal. She stopped fighting. Time blurred. The music grew louder. The room started to sway. Lila's thoughts became sticky and slow, like honey dripping through her mind. She sat on a couch that felt too big, staring at a poster on the wall that kept tilting. Rowan was across the room watching her. His eyes held panic. Not because she was having fun, because she wasn't safe. Lila blinked, trying to focus. She tried to stand, but her legs didn't obey. Rowan started to move toward her until one of the older guys stepped in front of him. Hold up, the guy said. Where are you going? Rowan's voice rose slightly. To my friend. The guy smiled like he enjoyed this. Relax. She's fine. Rowan tried to go around him. Another guy stepped in, then another. Rowan's shoulders tense. Lila's mouth went dry. She tried to say Rowan's name, but the sound came out wrong. Frankie's house felt suddenly smaller. The walls felt closer. Lila heard voices in the kitchen, whispers she wasn't supposed to hear. She's got money. How much? I don't know. Ask her. Lila's heart thudded. The guy who had walked beside her earlier crouched down near her. You got cash? He asked softly. Lila swallowed hard, forcing her voice to work. $5, she said. It was a lie. A good one. The guy's eyebrows rose. That's it? Lila nodded. She forced her face to remain calm, like she had practiced her whole life. Just 5. He stared at her for a moment, then smiled again. All right, give it here. We're going to run out and grab something. We'll bring you back the change. Lila hesitated. Rowan shouted from across the room. No! But Lila was surrounded by smiles that weren't friendly. She handed over the 5 because she knew something more important than money. If they thought she had more, it would get worse. The guy stood and disappeared. Lila's head spun. Rowan fought to reach her. And then Rowan was pulled away. Not violently at first, just guided, steered. One of the older guys clamped a hand around Rowan's shoulder and said, "Come here, kid." Rowan jerked back. "What are you doing?" he snapped. Another guy laughed. "Relax, we're just going to play some cards." Rowan struggled. "I don't want to play cards." They pulled him toward the hall. Lila sat frozen. She tried to rise again, but slid back down. Her body betrayed her. Her fear sharpened. Rowan's voice turned louder. Then the hallway swallowed him. The door closed. The sound after was the worst part. Not clear enough to prove anything, but clear enough for Lila to understand one terrible truth. Something was wrong. Her chest tightened so hard she couldn't breathe. She wanted to call the police. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. She grabbed for Rowan's phone in her pocket, but it wasn't there. She looked around desperately. The blonde girl saw her panic and leaned close. "You okay?" she asked, voice too sweet. "I need to go," Lila whispered. The blonde girl's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Because we shouldn't be here." Someone else chuckled. Now she realizes. Lila's hand shook. "I need to call." Before she could finish, Frankie stepped closer. "Hey," he said, voice low. "No calling anybody." Lila's blood turned cold. Frankie tilted his head like he was trying to look reasonable. "You're underage," he said. "If cops show up, everybody gets in trouble." Lila's throat tightened. "I don't care." Frankie smiled again, but this one didn't reach his eyes. "Well, I do." Lila backed up. Her backpack hit the couch. Her heart hammered. Then the guy who had seemed calm earlier, the one who first invited them, appeared beside her. He lowered his voice like he was helping. "Listen," he said. "If you're smart, you leave now." Lila stared at him. "Go," he urged. "Get out before it gets worse." Lila blinked. "Rowan!" The guy's face tightened. "You can't help him by staying." "Look," he said. "Once you're out of here, I'm calling the cops. I'm not letting them mess with some kid, I promise you." Lila's stomach flipped. It felt wrong. It felt like betrayal. But she looked toward the hallway and saw Frankie watching her, and she knew something deep inside herself. If she stayed, she might not leave at all. Lila grabbed her backpack. Someone laughed. Someone else muttered something ugly. Lila shoved through them and bolted for the door. The cold outside hit her like a slap. She ran. Her legs were unsteady, but adrenaline pushed her forward. Her breath burned. Her feet pounded the sidewalk. Behind her, the house stayed lit like a trap. She ran until her lungs ached. She ran until the street blurred. And then, sirens. A flash of red-blue light. Police cars rushed past her in the direction of Frankie's house. Lila stumbled to a stop, chest heaving, turning to watch them go. For a second, she froze. She wanted to turn back. She wanted to scream Rowan's name into the night. But her body moved without permission, survival taking over. She backed away. She hid behind a tree near the sidewalk, and she watched as the police swarmed the house. Doors open, shouting, movement, figures, but she couldn't see Rowan. She couldn't see him. Her heart shattered quietly, not with drama, not with screaming, just a silent break that split her into pieces. Lila pressed her hand over her mouth so no sound escaped. Tears ran down her cheeks. She stayed there until the lights faded, until the street went quiet again. And when she finally rose, shaking, she felt smaller than ever. She walked alone, back toward the park, back toward the shelter, back toward the only place that still felt like it belonged to her. And in her mind, one thought repeated like a prayer she didn't believe in anymore. Please let him be okay. Please let him be okay. But deep down, the part of her that had survived too much already whispered the truth that she didn't want. That would be the last time she ever saw Rowan. Check this channel for part 3, the final conclusion of The First Day Free.